I'm Richard Glaser. I'm from the University of Utah. A lot of people complain I talk really fast, and I have a lot of information. So, forewarned, the slides are online right now, so don't worry about taking notes. And if you have questions, please try to hold them to the end, because I think I'm on the slide wars, and I have the most slides. I apologize, but I want to try to get as much detailed information out to everybody. As I said, I work at the University of Utah, the main library on the campus. I used to be part of the Mac OS Labs and Mac Enterprise steering committees. Everybody knows that. We manage about 700 OS X computers, primarily student labs, staff, faculty. I manage a bunch of services and servers on campus in a cartridge and a pear tree. First, I wanted to get out of the way some misnomers about Utah. I get when a lot of times come back east. First, we're not getting Google Fiber. That's Salt Lake, or Provo. We're in Salt Lake. Second, Salt Lake City, we don't ride horse and buggies, as a lot of people say. A lot of people don't have multiple wires.
I have a question on the sporty slide, please.
Mormons don't have horns, and no, I don't ski. First, I'm going to cover terms in regards to terminal services, just for people who maybe don't have a clue what it is. Terminal services basically broadly describe the technologies to allow you to remotely access remote desktop or published applications. Remote desktop or remote visualization is basically separates the desktop environment and applications from the physical device accessing it. Published applications or applications virtualization or streaming separates the physical device from the software it's accessing. A streamed desktop or application is basically a form of on-demand distribution where the necessary code is downloaded and delivered over the network. Thin client is generically a machine without a hard disk. It depends on server for all its operation. Fat client usually has a hard disk and operating system, that can act independently of the server. Next, I'm going to give a little bit of background why we investigated terminal services. Primarily, we were focused on either supplementing or replacing using terminal services to replace or supplement our student computer labs. One thing I came up with, there are a lot of articles coming out recently about closing or reducing student labs, notably University of Virginia. Escalating costs for specialized software. Mobility. Students basically expect to have services available anytime, anywhere, including software. Utilization. A lot of people say students have laptops, mobile devices, so now there's less and less need for student labs, and we utilize that less. A lot of labs we manage, that's opposite of what we're seeing. They're getting used more and more. The cost. Some people argue terminal services are cheaper than managed desktops. And from the University of Virginia's presentation, if you look at some of his other talks, you kind of have to backtrack on that. And sometimes could be more expensive. So we developed a plan where we decided to research alternatives to the status quo solution from VMware and Citrix. I wanted to provide remote access for OS X desktop and applications. So basically, we wanted to evaluate products, experience, end-user support, etc. So I'm going to go over some of the OS X server options we kind of investigated. Basically, we had 4 options that I found: Aqua Connect, IREP, TS, Mac and Cloud, and OS X TSP. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the features of each of the products. Aqua Connect basically runs on OS X 10.4 to 10.8. It does support PowerPC, so if you have a need to allow people to run PowerPC code, they will support it. Supports X11, VNC, RDP, and Aqua Accelerated Protocol, which is called AAP. Supports directory services, Open Directory, Active Directory, and LDAP. It provides local support for local clipboard, printing, and in future release will support local file access. In regard to security, it supports high encryption, RSA, 2048, and FIPS, etc. Aqua Connect provides a load balancer, which basically monitors certain resources on internal servers, like CPU load, processor count, use free memory, etc. One thing to note about this product is the additional cost with the purchase of the server. They also have a solution that allows you to kill idle sessions. So if you have an issue with license restrictions, you can guarantee that a student didn't leave the sessions open and you're just wasting a license, so you could kill it after a certain time period. Aqua Connect was the first terminal server available in 2007. They received the Best of VMware 2010 and a Gartner 2011 Visitor Award and other things on that list. Aqua licensees, they have 400 plus licensees around the world, and here's some notable examples. They also have partners, some pretty important companies that are dedicating resources and support with them to integrate with their product, Microsoft, Intel, etc. Next, I'm going to talk about IRAP TS. IRAP supports 10.4 through 10.8. IRAP doesn't support PowerPC processors, so if you need that support, they currently aren't planning on supporting it. And they have two products, have IRAP TS and IRAP. IRAP TS supports multiple remote sessions, and IRAP just basically allows you to do one remote session. It's basically like RDP string sharing. They support RDP and IRAP protocol, and IRAP protocol basically used just with their Windows client. They also support directory services similar to Aqua Connect. They support local audio, clipboard, and printing. The load balancer, they believe, is a true load balancer, but it's really a round robin, where it doesn't actually monitor resources on the internal server. They do support multiple platforms, which is a benefit if you want to run your load balancer on other platforms like Windows or Linux. Also, it's no additional charge for your load balancer where it is in Aqua Connect. Security, they do support disabling printing, but that's a global option on a per user like with Aqua Connect. They also don't allow support disabling local clipboard, so if you're in an environment where you need to enable those, also, they don't support killing idle connections, and they also don't offer higher level of encryption like Aqua Connect does. They do offer one kind of cool feature called Blend and Unite, where it basically hides the OS X internal server's desktop. So you get a similar feature like with VMware Fusion Unity and parallel coherence mode. That only works with an IRAP client on Windows, so it's not available to like RDP or OS X clients. And here's some of their customers that are using their product. One notable issue with IRAP, they kind of have a history of allegedly stealing code from other vendors. One example is PowerPC, and they are also recently litigation with Aqua Connect. So keep that in mind. Mac and Cloud. Mac and Cloud's a subscription or a timeshare service. It's aimed at developers. Default software is open source or freeware SDKs. OS X DSP is an open source product. It has limited functionality and doesn't seem actively developed. But if you want to go that route, that's something you can consider. Next, I'm going to talk about what we did with our pilot project. 2011, we got funding and decided to investigate two types of terminal server platforms. With Ultio, which is an open source product that runs on Linux, Windows. And we also chose Aqua Connect on the OS X terminal server side, where we purchased 25 licenses and we purchased a load balancer. Because we're a really limited budget, we just used retired Power Macs from our lab environment, our student lab environment, increased the RAM and installed SSDs to speed up access and performance. we work with specific classes and software to test if it would be a working, supportable environment. That was pretty successful, so we had more funding. In 2012, we decided to increase the licenses to another 25, so we're currently supporting 50 concurrent users. Again, we used retired Tire Max, increased the RAM and SSDs, and we opened it up to more classes and more portions of the campus. In the near future, if a project is pretty successful, students have been happy with the service, we're increasing another 50 licenses. So we're hoping over the next 3 to 6 months we'll allow 100 concurrent connections. This is just on the Mac side. The PC side is also supporting 100 concurrent connections. And make that available as a production service on campus. Kind of the back-end hardware setup, and go through this really fast. So basically we have the kernel servers, or all Power Macs, like I stated, 2008 and 2010 models. We have a load balancer, which is a Power Mac. The load balancer basically monitors all the services on each of the kernel servers and redirects incoming connections to the kernel server with the most available resources. Aqua Connect basically hardware serializes. We ran into issues where we had down hardware. There's a time gap until we could get the hardware serialization working on another hardware. So they basically sold us a cheaper licenses, which were termed failover licenses. So we have a basic failover server fitting up our production servers to go down. We also have a test server, so we can test development builds from Aqua Connect, test changes in our backend management system or operating system updates, and then we can use that for production. Also the same kind of logic with our load balancer. We also have a failover load balancer. That was an additional charge. We can actually put the load balancer as many machines as we want. And we also had a development load balancer where we test again new development software from Aqua Connect, backend stuff, and new operating system updates. Next, I'm going to cover kind of the specific machine setup on the kernel servers. We have the RAM to 32 gigabytes of RAM per machine. We installed an SSD. We have 2 partitions, a startup disk, and a user data. We're using external accounts on that. We're also using a network control power switch called I2 or iBoot G2. This allows us to remotely, since you can't do Wi-Fi management on Power Macs, so this allows us to remotely reboot the machine. It also has a feature called auto ping, where we can actually ping the device and set up things like reboot it if the hardware is hung. We also set up a thing called administration partition. We're calling CMS admin. Basically, this partition, we actually reverse engineered Apple's recovery partition. We basically set up a minimal OS built automatically from our OS base load. It's not a disk image. We manage it with RADMine. And how this basically the functionalities is we can do major OS updates. We can run RADMine out of context. That basically allows us to boot from a separate hard disk and update the file system on another partition. It's basically what that means. We can run repair utilities like disk order, data rescue, and we can quickly reimage the startup disk. The process we kind of reverse engineer. We basically scan the recovery HD. People are familiar with RADMine. Basically creates a whole file system, transcript of all the file system objects. And basically there's a base system DMG, which the recovery disk uses as a boot OS. And then there's a com.apple.boot.plist. This is kind of an interesting file if people don't know about it. It basically allows you to boot off a DMG and has other functionality. There's a man page on it if you want to look at it. And then we basically mounted the base DMG, scan that file system, and built that as our model to create our own custom recovery disk. Another thing we kind of took from the Apple recovery disk is the Apple boot partition type. Basically, this prevents automatic mounting of the volume and gives some visibility features to the end users. Disk utility, you can see it as a non-admin. Disk utility, the GUI version, you can see it, but you have to enable debug. And then on the startup disk, it's not visible unless the volume is mounted. and in Startup Manager, it's visible. Mounting the volume, and hopefully everybody knows how to do this, disk utility mount the disk identifier. And if you want to set up a volume for the Apple II partition type, and you do ASR adjust -- target div path -- set type in Apple II. That'll clear for you. Next, I'm going to talk about the specifics of the Aqua Connect software. First, the terminal server, they term as Aqua Connect Remote Desktop Services. This basically enables LSX remote access and emulation. Again, it supports X11, BNC, RDP, Aqua Connect Accelerator Protocol, or AAP, and directory services, which I mentioned before. Under installation, the installer, they create a custom installer. So it's not a package installer, but it installs package installers. I'll quickly go over kind of the installation. Basically, a welcome screen, the release notes, which gives you fixes and known issues with the current release. Components, which allow you to select certain protocols if you want to enable them or disable them. For example, AAP or BNC, or the load balancer, for example. This is where you put the license keys. Aqua Connect basically hardware serializes each server, so you have a specific license key that goes with each server. And input a correct one, you'll see something like this. The terminal server setup, you can set defaults for certain protocols. So, for example, if you want to modify the default RDP port, if you want to enable or disable bitmap caching, which basically caches frequently used images. The BNC port, BNC display resolution, and breakbit. The administrator and user defaults. Aqua Connect has a tool called the Administrator tool, which allows you to interact with the sessions and modify settings after the initial install. Here's where you set the default admin account, password, and default port it's used. You can also enable disable users by default in some environments. Maybe you don't want to allow all users to access the terminal server. If you turn that off, you can go through using another tool and enable them one by one. In secure environments, maybe you want to disable the clipboard and printing by default, but maybe for specific users that aren't using sensitive data, you could turn those on individually. The terminate session after disconnect. This is a feature we decided not to use because in case a student accidentally disconnected, didn't save their work, or something happened and their session got disconnected. So instead we're handling that differently, which I'll discuss later. But we want to give the user an opportunity to either call our support desk or log back in and get access to the file that they can save properly. The administration tool. This is a tool that basically allows you to manage various aspects of the terminal server, see live sessions, modify user settings, etc. The installer installs the default location application services. You need to set up an SSL private key and certificate, else you'll see an error kind of at the bottom of the window. Here's an example code for setting up the generated private key and SSL certificate. First, I'm going to talk about the monitor live sessions kind of view. First, you have a list of all the usernames, the connection time when the user is connected to the session, the last time the user is connected to the session, the protocol they're using, RDP or AAP. We're not supporting that BNC and X11, so in our environment we shouldn't see those. The devices are basically the printer or if they have audio enabled. This will give you more details on the printer, like the local printer setup. And if they have a full local printer setup, you'll have a pop-up menu there. You can see those type of configurations. Active sessions, how you can tell an active session, and it will have a connection time and a protocol setting. Inactive or sessions basically will not have that connection time. So for us, if we're reaching our licensing limit, and we'll basically could automatically terminate that session if we need to. The priority allows you to adjust the CPU utilization on the session. And I discussed that, and then again, I kind of discussed this, but you could, during sessions, say, this user always forgets to save your files, select it, and too bad you lost it for this, if you want it. The user section, you have enabled column where it shows if the users are enabled or disabled. Then you kind of have filters where you can tell it to show all, enabled or disabled, only show enabled, or only show disabled. Those are the login name of the users, the real name of the users, the CPU priority. These are local accounts in our environment, and these are network accounts in our environment. We're using ODAP and Privileged. We also have Active Directory on our campus. We just continue using ODAP and Privileged. The show audit trail for security or debugging reasons, you can basically track all the user utilization of the terminal server and track everything you've done if you want it. The CPU prioritization, again, you can do this at per user level, so if you have an important user, you want to give them the best experience, you can increase their CPU utilization, or if you have a user that's using more high-end apps, you can also increase their utilization. Those settings are retained after future logging. And again, you can allow or disallow local clipboard and printing. So depending on if that user is using sensitive data, you could remove those. If they're not, you can allow that. And again, during sessions I just print. These settings are stored in a plist file, stored in that location there. Here's a kind of example plist file. So you could use your favorite programming tool, default, plist ID, etc., to kind of control some of the aspects of those plist. Admins. Aqua Connect has a admin pane where this tool is basically, these user accounts are used just to administrate the administration tool. Note this isn't tied to a directory service. Currently they don't have that available. It's only used with the administration tool. You basically can add administrative accounts, remove administration accounts, and change the administrative password. And again, they basically have p-lists that you can go through and edit. So if you want to change the administrative password, you could use defaults and change those particular keys. You can change the password if you want it, etc. And none of that is in the real password, but if you want to go ahead and try to collect. The protocols, again, after the initial setup, you can go through and if you need to modify the protocol settings, you can use the administration tool. The DNC port, backup, resolution, RDP options. One RDP option allows you, if you're using the Microsoft desktop connection tool, you want people to be able to use Command and C to do copy paste, etc. You basically want to enable that option. Sound, bitmap caching, packet compression, fastpath input, which will affect the older Windows RDP clients, and then color compression. So depending on the environment, if you need color accuracy, you want to set it to a higher level. If you want to give the user the best performance, you could compress more, just within the environment. General basically gives you the Aqua Connect version, who it's registered to. The licensing server. So Aqua Connect, basically you have to phone home and authorize your use of the software. It does it after a reboot or every 7 days. If you're in an environment where you don't want to allow someone to log into an external source, they'll actually set you up in an internal licensing server for your environment. For us, that wasn't that big of a deal. The registration key, which again is a key specific for that particular server hardware, active sessions, and maximum sessions. The group filters basically gives you additional functionality. Say you use groups in your directory service. This allows you to also set up groups to restrict them to the terminal service to that specific group. The load balancer. Excuse me. Load balancer, as I stated before, basically monitors all the terminal services. It monitors CPU load, processor core count, use memory, and free memory. It basically scans each of the terminal services every 10 minutes and then routes each connection to the server with the most available resources. It's only supported with RDP and AAP protocols. And here's kind of an example. If you want to monitor it, you can use Telnet to get some data from the terminal server. It runs only on Intel hardware, runs 10.6 through 10.8. Currently, other platforms aren't supported, but we will plan on supporting Linux in the future. And also, it's not required to run a cross-site server to use this product. The load balancer has a new application called AC Load Balancer Tool. Basically allows you to add or remove terminal servers. It allows you to enable or disable terminal servers. The nice feature of that is if you downtown a terminal server, you could disable it so that incoming sessions will not try to use the server or say you're going to maintenance on or take it down. Again, this file is just basically a text file that you can edit with your favorite command line tool. And I've decided a couple of examples how to do things. One thing we ran into with the load balancer is the launchd item has a disabled true by default. And I informed the company and hopefully they'll change in the future. So you either need to change that to, false or need that key to get your load balancer to work properly. Troubleshooting the load balancer. Here's kind of some example code. Basically, you define the processes and then you send a kill USR2 and that'll basically restart the load balancer. We ran into an issue where we were doing maintenance on machines. The load balancer would scan the machine, say it's down, take it out of the list. And the company's also planning on fixing this in a future release. So what you can do to fix that, instead of rebooting the server, is again find the processes and send a kill USR one command, and that basically forces it to use its default server list versus let other pieces up or down. The Aqua timeout is the product we're kind of using. This basically allows you to monitor sessions for mass activity and keyboard activity, and then you can specify a time period to kill sessions. So we want to be nice for users, so if they accidentally disconnected, we gave them a 2-hour window to go back in and either save a connection or help desk get support. And I'm going to go through its configuration plist, kind of a couple of the flags. The force key that's not used, the maximum interval. This is where you set the idle time period for our environment. We set 7,200 seconds, so basically 2 hours. The method is what method you use to terminate a session. 1 is used by default. 0 basically logs you out with a prompt that's similar to going to the Apple menu and logging out. 1 is a little bit more ruthless. It basically is similar to killing the login window. The user is not informed that their session is going to end and they'll lose anything they haven't saved. Then 2 basically allows you to lock the screen, similar to a screen-saver lock. Monitoring. Here's kind of an example on the terminal servers themselves. These are the processors and commands you kind of want to use to monitor the RDP services. And similar commands to monitor the AAP services. If you want to use remote networking monitoring software like Nagios, we use AirMapper. There's a Nagios plugin called CheckX TP4 that allows you to check RDP connections and make sure your terminal server is properly serving those up. Client software overview. Aqua Connect Accelerated Protocol. This is a client specific to use that protocol. Currently they have OS X and Windows available. In development they have iOS, which is supposed to be out in June, HTML5, Chrome OS in July, Linux in July, and Android Q4 2013. The Aqua Accelerated Protocol, a proprietary protocol designed by Aqua Connect. It basically gives you performance and efficiency benefits over other protocols like DNC and RDP. According to them, full motion 1080p video in less than 1 megabit stream. In our testing, it's looking very promising, but they're still developing. Here's kind of an example of the OSX GUI. A couple notable items. You can set the display resolution, and you can do the audio synchronization with video. And you can also set the server name and password, etc. RDP clients, the Microsoft desktop connection tool you can use with Aqua Connect. One option we modified there is under the, you can see that, under the preferences, and then there's a Windows Start key. If you just turn that command, then it'll work with, allow you to map OSX keyboard combinations using that particular client. Core is a open source RDP client for Microsoft that has some interesting features that you might want to also look at. There's a ton of RDP and VNC clients for iOS. One I kind of like or use a lot is called Jump, and that works with the Aqua Connect with the RDP. Licensing. EULA, the end user licensing. When you're setting up a OSX terminal server, you need to know about these. First, there's the OSX client server consideration, and then the applications you're planning on making available for your terminal servers. You need to verify that your use meets with the end user license agreement of the company, and maybe I highly recommend discussing this with the company before you make this stuff available. I'd also recommend consulting legal resources, probably in general, and if you have any doubts, for sure. Forewarned, I'm not qualified to give legal advice, and I have no legal expertise, and I do not play a lawyer in TV. So this is just my overview of what I'm doing with the end user licenses. In regards to Apple, their license agreements are available on this website. So first, OSX must run an Apple-branded computer. So I'm giving kind of examples of the text and a lot of the end-user license agreements, and highlighted the specific areas where that applies. So examples 10.6, 10.7, and 10.8. 10.6 server, 10.7 server, and 10.8 server. So you can't not legally run OS X locally on non-Apple hardware. So your blade system in your data center, you can't run it there. But there are multiple options and solutions that you could run something in your data center if you allow it. Remote sessions can be run from any type of computer or device. So again, here's the text from end-user license agreements from 10.8, 10.7. So legally, you can run a remote session from any of the platforms listed here. So iOS devices, Android devices, a thin client, OS X, Windows, etc., etc., etc. Only one remote control graphical desktop session is allowed. And again, here's the end user license code and highlighted text for 10.8 and also 10.7. So it's not legal to run multiple remote control graphical sessions on an OS X terminal server. So legally, you have to do one-to-one relationship to do remote control graphical sessions. And in 10.6, I couldn't find any specific language for remote desktop restrictions. Again, I'd consult your lawyers before you implement something like 10.6. Interestingly, I found out that screen sharing does support multiple remote connections. So Apple's own software doesn't follow its own end-user license agreement. One other interesting thing, there's a clause, except otherwise licensed by Apple. So here's an example in 10.8 and in 10.7. And from my working on this project, talking to people, it seems that if you're big enough or important enough account to Apple, they'll grant you a private license around these end-user license agreements. In the future, Aqua Connect is developing application streaming, and that currently gets around Apple's end-user license agreements. Similar to Citrix, XenApp, but for OS X applications. It's 2 to 3 times improvement over its full desktop streaming. And their current time frame on delivering the product is August. Thanks for attending my presentation. Hopefully it was beneficial to everybody. My slides are online right now, so if you want to download them. Sorry, it's a lot of information. Sorry, I talked too fast. But there, at the bottom of the page, there's a link, and there's just slides, and it's live. So you should be able to download it now. Wi-Fi. Everybody get it? Here's my contact info. If you need to contact me. You go there. Yes. Also, we've been really busy, so I haven't shared a lot. But if you go to this site and go to the iTunes U, we have a lot of content that we probably interest to a lot of people in this group. We get a lot of presenters, and we make that available through our iTunes U site. We do a lot of presentations. We also have a lot of documentation that are probably still relevant, so you might want to check out the site a little bit more. Any questions or answers?
So you said we're only allowed to run one-to-one as part of the viewing session and the server, right? It's a controlled, in my specific language, it's a controlled remote desktop graphical session. Oh, okay.
So legally, you can allow multiple people observe, but not control. Only one person is controlled.
Oh, okay. So you would essentially, you're running 32 gigs of RAM to essentially be able to view and not control.
We'd like to know more about what you're doing around the
Well, since we're being recorded.
No, I mean, we're talking hypothetically.
Well, we're running 10.6, so we're under assumption we could under our pilot projects. What the plan is moving forward is we're going to find out if application streamings are illegal. It's going to be available, so before we go to production, we're going to go that route. Or what our plan is, we have classrooms. So we easily have 100 machines in classrooms. Our peak usage on our terminal services was 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we'll basically have machines set up to meet the need outside that time period, and then we're basically set up our classrooms as hybrid. So we'll actually allow people to connect to our classrooms, and we'll do it one-to-one if we have to go that route.
With regards to, you said that Aqua Connect that terminal services and I think you said that hosting Linux terminal services would require that. Excuse me, would not require that.
They're not planning on doing Linux terminal services per se. They're planning on supporting a Linux load balance. But you can use any AAP will be available at the client for Linux. So then you can actually connect and run OS X terminal services using a Linux box.
Okay, so the only thing that would actually be Mac would be the actual
Terminal service.
So like all the rest of your infrastructure is load balancer.
Could be Linux. Right. Yeah.
Can you speak to some of the performance of your applications in the virtual environment that you benchmark, and what has that experience been?
We haven't done any benchmarking per se, but users have been very happy with the experience. I can demo something. I wasn't sure I'd have time. on the network here real quickly, but I can demo something if there's no more questions. Yeah.
You showed a lot of configuration of the different terminal servers, setting up like users and various settings. When you do that, is that per server, or when you're changing the settings, you're changing it for all of the servers?
We use Radmine, and then we developed a thing that does configuration management called Xhooks for Puppet was available and Casper and all this stuff. So we basically already have, since probably 2002, we had a solution that did configuration management for us. So basically, the thing is called Xhooks, and basically we do. Is everybody familiar with Radmine? So Radmine, there's a transcript. We basically set variables inside of Radmine, and we basically can do things like the licensing key. We basically parse that out automatically due to the terminal servers. A lot of the customization is all done through that or through Xhooks. So when we want to put individual serialization keys on these machines, we can easily manage that just through the Radmine transcript through variables.
Would you have to investigate licenses for the actual software?
Yes.
Hardware?
Yes.
And Adobe licenses, do they have a license?
Yeah, Adobe has an enterprise site I don't want to. I just basically talked to Adobe about a week ago. The enterprise site license, you can use it for services.
But it also sounds like because it's like a one-to-one relationship with hardware, it's not really same.
Hypothetically, yeah.
But a lot of the companies, if you have a concurrent license, they treat terminal services differently. So you still need to talk to even if you have a network or terminal license, verify that with the software vendor. So we currently have the Adobe network licenses, but that's okay to install a physical machine that the students walk up and use in the lab. But we can't use it for the terminal services. We have to get a certain type of license that we can take in terminal services.
Was that enterprise created cloud? We were told that we're going to move into enterprise created cloud. We were told that recipes more cloud. Is that separate from the site license?
I just got an email from him. It took him like 2 weeks, so I knew people were asking this. I can forward it. They term it enterprise site license, allows you to run terminal services with your products. Basically, they said we have to have all our staff, faculty, and students. What they investigate.
You talk about your infrastructure costs. I mean, are all these old power PCs you're using in your data center, or did you have to run power to come to clock?
No, people just go, a lot of times come in, is this possible, Richard? And I a lot of times do it. And then, so it was really bare bones, to be honest. The initial phase was 7,500. So for the first phase, 25 users, we only got 7,500. We set everything up. It's successful. They went, oh wow, another 7,500. So it's really successful. And now campus is getting a stream, and now they're trying to help us fund. Currently, we're debating putting in a data center or not because politics and costs and things like that. So we're not sure if we're going to have to put things in the data center. So there are racks you can buy for power maps. I don't know if they won't put them in the data center because they're apply to you. Type of thing.
And just a point of clarification, we're talking about like macros that you put in your labs?
Yep.
Okay, because when you said power max, I already thought it was 5.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, they're macros.
Just curious on the density with your panel using Backend Setup. How many users can you get on one machine?
It depends on what type of performance. Can I kind of give you a formula? We actually halved it, basically. So we're basically doing 8 to 9 per machine. But it depends on what your users, what software they're using.
Sure.
It was kind of funny. We use eServer and some other stuff to monitor usage, and a lot of people use Safari. internal servers on the web. We had classes, for example, we have a PC class for SPSS, and we had students using our internal service, and so we included the machine internal. And we were actually pegging utilization because we had 50 students connected at the same time. Which I thought was strange too.
How do you set up? We're looking at probably skipping what you're waiting for the software virtualization set up. But have you set up every server identical, or like they have multiple desktops? Say, for example, I want to launch Adobe. Is that just on one? Or is every software you're pushing out on available on? I think it's do you have one when a person sits down at the machine and wants to launch a virtual machine or start a session? Do you have different, say, between software packages, do you have different servers that they connect to, or are they making a connection to one virtual desktop that has every type of software you're trying to develop?
With our Radmine and our configuration, we can granularly customize that pretty easily. Some software, legally, we can only install on specific machines. So, for example, we have some software in Classroom. Our terminal servers basically are currently global, and you don't want it, because a lot of times from our perspective, telling the user you have to go to this machine to run this specific software application causes support issues and confusion on both the support side and the user side. So ideally, we try to do things globally if we can get the licensing available. So the terminal servers right now are basically the same configuration. With moving to application streaming, you can basically restrict things based on the user and directed services or separate groups. So you can actually create groups and give particular groups access to certain software.
How do students sustain the same local machine?
Primarily, we don't have a kind of a cloud storage, institution cloud storage, so they actually recommend Dropbox for a lot of students. So when we set up the terminal services, we basically mount and display Dropbox. And we can use Dropbox, or some departments have their own servers. They can usually mount them locally and access the files there. So like the Fine Arts, College of Fine Arts has a server that students can save files there.
Do students have their own login?
Yeah, so we have a campus Active Directory. Basically use PeopleSoft as kind of a master directory, and then we sync Active Directory and our LDAP. We currently use in our environment LDAP for Kerberos. So we basically have a network ID, so all the students have a network ID to communicate. Initially, when we started out with this project, we were worried about creating kind of a honeypot. So we restricted it to our campus VNC and required people to authenticate through that and then firewall that to allow ID. Because initially it also supported IDP, and we were worried about saying try to crack people's passwords. But now we have it monitored and we open that to the house. More issues with this stuff. You can see how
Is it presented to the desktop that the software is installed on the server, or do you make an image that it's root? We use the overview, so in our environment we connect to Windows machines and desktops, but those are based on images and tools that you make. But you install the software on the terminal server itself.
Yeah. We initially also tried running it through a VM, but the performance wasn't very good. And since we use Radmine anyways, we didn't want to, we constantly update things, we didn't want to figure out how to do Radmine and VM, we constantly update things. We like things all automated. We kind of have a system up to build to create, automatically create databases from base load. We have things to automate SMTP. To build catalogs and build OS, we also have steps to do software updates and form out. So we didn't want to add additional.
One of your slides, I think, actually listed factor, which I noticed you both the drafting package and the render management package.
Right.
Are you guys really seeing the ability to do that? To kind of go through the environment?
We did get a lot of feedback from that particular class on that, but yeah, it's usable in that environment. The other app was Lightride is a theater staging app. I don't know if people remember that. We had a lot of bands for that.
Have you brought this up to anybody from Apple at all? Like maybe your system engineers to kind of say, hey, this is kind of what we're doing. What do you think? You know?
Yeah. And I talked to some higher ups at Apple about this because they're worried about this presentation. What did you want to know?
What did they
I
say?
was just wondering what their feedback was. Like, are they cool with it? Or?
I think they're concerned about it. Apple's primarily a consumer hardware company. Yeah. So I guess in a way they're worried a lot of environments, if they can legally go to this type of solution, will purchase less hardware. Impact their sales, but I guess that's understandable. Yeah. So that's why they're kind of pushing the one-to-one. But with application streaming, for us, we already have the hardware, so we'll go fine. You have to do one-to-one. We can easily do it. We'll just use our existing machines. And with a lot of people reducing labs, we're getting high utilization. We're not planning on reducing these certain labs for at least a while. So we'll have a bunch of machines that are sitting idle, so we might as well let people on.
Just to be clear, there isn't any virtualization happening here. It's native hardware running a native OS supporting multiple user connections.
Correct. Yeah, we initially tried to put it in VM, but the components would work. And again, with our management lifecycle, we would have to figure out how to update the VM automatically, which we can see consistent.
If you are doing one Mac Pro per user session, go that way. That's not technically terminal services, that's just remote access to a single test. And we need terminal services suggest multiple users on the same machine. And if one user can use one machine and access at the same time, then that sounds like it may get around to the license.
Yeah, so you could argue just why not just allowing people to be into these machines, but with the AAP protocol, you get performance and you can actually do video editing through a terminal service.
I'm saying using what you're using, but it's technically not a terminal service.
It's still a remote terminal providing the service.
But the RDB and VNC are usually allowed.
Yeah, you're obviously just comparing to the Windows model and using that as your baseline definition, but I think what you're suggesting is that the protocol allows you to gain some awesome performance remotely.
Yeah, but if you're doing remote effects.
Yeah, it's like screen sharing. And again, they're coming out with application streaming in 3 months that you can do multiple application streams and be real. So I was just informing because there seems like there's a lot of misinformation about terminal services, that a lot of people think, rumors, and that if you have this many connections per machine, you buy this many server licenses, then you're legal. No, that's not true according to Apple. But I see that out on the internet. That a lot of people think, oh, I want to allow 8 connections on this one machine. I'll buy 8 server licenses and say, oh, but no, that's not legal.
Do you attach any storage to the server for that presents out to the end user? For like, maybe like XAM, for example?
No, we don't.
Would it?
You could, yeah. There's campus really decentralized, so there's a lot of departments that manage these their own servers. But one thing we might do is, with the stuff that kills idle sessions, we might build our own system that detects when the session's idle and allow users to monitor user processes. So if someone wants to render stuff through the terminal server, like video or things like that, what we'll end up doing is maybe having a storage location that will do a shutdown and copy the files up to there temporarily. We might implement something like that, but beyond that, probably not one department. We're kind of a general student support area. We don't have to do it for the student population. No. Mobile. On the terminal server, we use an external account. And so we put the user's data on a separate partition to do that. Because how Radmine runs, we manage student labs where we pull away the user's data. We basically, with Radmine, we treat the whole file system and try to tripwire everything possible. So we run into junior admins who actually switch configurations, make a staff person a lab, and the task is to keep the user's data on the same drive, the staff person's data. When we were ignoring it, it got switched to a lab box, and we pulled away the staff's data. So we decided to create another partition so then that doesn't get managed by all the files. Different accidental groups. Anything else? Want to see a demo? So this is the AAP client. I just connected to a server. I'm going to show an example of a video streaming live.
Were you just making fun of us?
I was just trying to, I wasn't sure I had enough time. This is just an example of the performance of AAP. Okay, I love it. You got it. Well, anyways, so yeah, doing demos is bad. But anyways, it worked before. So anyways, this kind of shows an example. I'm doing basically a terminal session, playing video. This is 720p. We would have audio. It saves pretty well. So this is basically using the Aqua protocol. It gives you pretty good performance. So, anyways, that kind of gives an example of that. Is it Photoshopping? It's not legal right now.
Can you,
what else do you want to? That's not legal.
Word.
Yeah, Word's legal. I can show you Word.
Yeah. For iMovie.
as PSS?
About vector word.
Sure.
Or SketchUp?
Well, I have one more question actually. How is login time for? I assume these guys are using Active Directory or LDAP log to authenticate to it.
Yeah.
How is login time on those? If you have more than one.
Want me to log out and show you the login time?
Sure.
Okay. Basically, how we do logins when you're using the same principle as our lab environment. At the login window, if it's idle, we term it cached home directories. So after Radmine runs, we have a script that runs, detects the screensaver's on, the login window's up, and it'll create 10 home folder caches. And then when people log in, it just moves it into place and changes permissions, so it's relatively fast. We're not copying it into place. So if I just terminate the session, my session would be termed an idle session. So if I didn't do anything for 2 hours, it automatically kill my session. But if I use the regular logout method, So this is doing certain things, encryption. It sets up certain audio, graphic handlers. Put it up, pull button. And then, like I said, we open up Dropbox. A lot of our students just use Dropbox. Any other questions? Anything else on the demo?
I noticed that under the options is grayed out, but our research options are also
We used to hack that. We actually used to hack the NIM, and we actually used to hack the Apple menu. We actually hacked the software update and set our own application we created. And we came to, in the past, we used to manage a bunch of machines across campus. And we actually used to remove, sleep, shut down, and actually you can get the dialog to pop up. We actually used to hack these ones, so you can actually shut it down. Because we used to have to go all the way across campus, hack on the machine. But it hasn't happened a lot, and we got lazy and decided it didn't happen enough for us to do that back end as well.
I'm thinking specifically for the thermal service. When you first go, they have the admin, and they actually.
They can right now. We're probably for that. If we allow a local login and also a remote login, we'll probably end up removing that. So someone's local can't shut down on the remote user and vice versa, or a restart machine, vice versa. Currently, we don't. So yeah, that is an issue.
Yeah, because I remember way back when Aqua Connect first started, I was testing out their software. And it was working pretty well, but I thought, what happens if I select shut down? And behind me the right
They also have an interesting thing with audio playback, because a lot of times you go by the kernel servers and playing some audio from someone ready to go. And then a couple things you ran in, they currently don't have MIDI support, so like if you want to use Sibelius, you don't get audio feedback. You can do everything else in Sibelius. They're planning on supporting that type of stuff. iMovie, you can currently do stuff in iMovie and edit video and things like that. So it's a performance update for that movie. Yeah.
iMovie Mac for app.
Sorry?
iMovie recorded for app.
I think they're planning on it. They're haven't given me a lot of details, and they're planning on letting us start testing the beta, their beta code, or public code, but they haven't given us access yet.
You said you had a long period of time before you actually disconnect the user, long window that you have.
Right.
Are you finding as it becomes more and more popular that the review interface kind of grows, that you may run into problems where if you're leaving it open for 2 hours that users can connect, and you don't have somebody else in?
We ran into that again, like I mentioned before. We had a PC classroom, and students either had iOS devices or Mac laptops. They logged in through the OSX kernel server and run SPSS instead of using the PCs. So we actually started getting pegged because we had 50 student classes just using our machine. Our licenses got pegged. So what we ended up doing a lot of times is when we ran into a situation is finding a session that was zoomed and was idle, person saved their stuff and we trouble.
So I'm just wondering if
If that happens, we might parse it down to maybe an hour or less, or maybe 30 minutes or less. Or we're planning on implementing our own idle script, so it will save their file, so then maybe we'll get a little bit more restrictive on time.
I was just thinking that if people come in with the RDP client and they decide to disconnect rather than log off, that session is basically open,
Right.
and they're logged in. And they think, well, I'm done with it, I'm not using it, and then it's basically taken up.
Yeah, we're planning on developing our own app that detects, say they're rendering anything, but we'll have to figure out if there's an ideal way to check all the user processes and make sure it's not something they're really doing or something that's just running, and then monitor keyboard and mouse. And then if we detect nothing's there, then we'll have a script that copies anything they've saved up to a storage volume, so it's temporary. They can re-log in. Their network ID will give them access to those files if they accidentally didn't save to where they could. And then we can get more strict. It's like 15 minutes, 30 minutes if you want to do it that way. Currently, Aqua Connect doesn't support monitoring user processes.
So you said it supports their protocol also RDP, so you can use the remote desktop line and connect to that desktop.
Yep. DNC X11 RDP. So you can use any RDP.
You just see the computer, to see a Mac desktop in the RDP line.
Yeah, that works pretty well. If you enable what I was saying to do, one feature is if you go to keyboard, this Windows Start key, you put Command there, and it'll allow you to use the command keys and text.
Do you have any issues with, I mean, you got out with that wirelessly, but the bandwidth of the next few days,
yeah, we have a big wireless infrastructure, and yeah, most of the screens are actually using it wirelessly. I haven't looked at the amount of bandwidth, but I was connecting over this wireless to it, and it worked fine, so it couldn't be much worse than our cameras. Any other questions?
Can you connect on the RDP to the website?
Oh, also with the RDP client, I've set up so you can do automatically log in. So that's not the real login time. It's reconnecting to my session, and I was already there.
Energy efficient appliances? You can get a tax write-off for those. A programmable thermostat. Very smart. Saves money. Cash money. I see you have Allstate claim-free rewards. For every year you don't have a claim, you get money off your home insurance policy. Put it towards...
So...
Since Sergey Brin introduced glass to the world with an amazing demonstration of mobile I/O featuring skydiving and mountain biking. And we're not going to do anything quite that exciting today, but I do want to try to give you an idea of what it's like to wear glass in the real world. It's an incredibly promising technology, but it's also one that's got some pretty strong challenges to overcome. So what do you get for your $1,500? You get a headset that...
So have you been talking or finding that other people are running or wanting to run similar pilots, and do you feel that there's maybe be some value to trying to get a few groups of folks together in a conversation to put some pressure on the mothership, if you will?
Is this of interest to other people?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, initially with me working on this project, a lot of people, I couldn't get anybody to talk to me because I think the issue with the licensing using I couldn't get anybody to talk to me. I couldn't. Yeah, it seems kind of under the. I take arrangements with Apple and other arrangements security-wise. It's hard to get anybody to talk to me about what they were doing. But I'm willing to work with other people. Other people are interested. Work on some of the best practices and what works.
I mean, but it seems like the start of that conversation is, hey, Mr. Apple, your product already knows why doesn't your license that? Because you can log in multiple user sessions.
It's just a numbers game with Apple as well. So I feel like there'd be some value to getting as many people that are interested in working alongside each other to try to get that.
Sure. Yeah. Any other questions?